So, Megan, you're in New York City.
Yes. And
How are you surviving? Have you just, turned into a snow person?
I wish I had turned into a snow person. That would make life so much easier because then I could go outside and do things, but I can't because it's so cold. Oh no, I just broke my pin. I'm so cold all the time. It's just too cold to do anything. Do you want to hear what I'm wearing right now in my apartment?
Sure.
I'm wearing
Yeah, Megan,
a
what are
tank
you
top,
wearing?
a short sleeve shirt, a sweater, a much more thick sweater, and a sweatshirt, 2 pairs of pants, long socks that go up to my knees, ankle socks, and these booties that my aunt got me for Christmas, and I'm still cold. Because
Yikes.
I can't turn my radiator on because it screams at me for some reason.
Oh,
So
you've turned it off for the recording?
No, I've turned it off, period, because it will
Just for your peace of mind?
Yes, it won't stop screaming at me. And so now I have these 2 poles that are supposed to keep, in theory, they're supposed to keep my apartment warm, and they usually do, but not when it feels like it's -8 degrees outside. Oh my gosh.
See, this is it's so funny for me to hear this from you, because just in our relationship, I don't know that I've ever heard you say that you're too cold.
I usually am not too cold, but this is too cold. Negative is too cold. That's less than nothing. That's too cold. I can't do it. Because, I like to be, outside when it's cold. I like to enjoy, the snow, because it's, 20 or 30, and I can handle that. But I cannot handle -8 degrees. I went out and I got groceries today, and then I came home and made cinnamon buns, and I literally haven't done anything else, because it's too cold. I've just been in my bed all day. I don't like it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is A Bit Much, and I'm Jenna.
And I'm Megan.
And I already said the name of the show, so Megan, tell us about the show.
On A Bit Much, every 2 weeks we will read a book, watch its movie adaptation, and then talk about it while drinking alcohol.
That's correct, and this time we're going to be talking about The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Woohoo. Aliens.
So, we didn't fucking talk about who was going to summarize.
I think that you should.
Okay. So, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is about a man named Arthur Dent, who is English, and basically the book starts on the last day of the Earth, because unbeknownst to pretty much everyone on Earth, the planet is going to be destroyed in order to make room for a hyperspace highway by another race of aliens. But Arthur Dent is seemingly the only human, the only inhabitant of the Earth who is rescued from this fate, because one of his friends is actually an alien who's named Ford Prefect, who's been stranded on Earth for 15 years and has befriended Arthur, and therefore feels like he owes it to him to save him from death, from just the whole planet being blown up. So, and Ford is a researcher and writer for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is an informational book for people who live anywhere in the universe and want to get around for cheap by by hitchhiking on other spaceships, basically. And so they leave the planet just before it's destroyed, but are then caught by they leap onto this ship that's owned by the aliens who destroyed the Earth, and then are caught by them and shot out into space to die, but miraculously are rescued by a very strange spaceship, which runs on improbability, basically. And so since it was so improbable that they would be rescued after being shot into space, they are rescued just by virtue of its improbability. And the people who are on this ship are the president of the galaxy, Zaphod Beeblebrox, and Trisha McMillan, another English woman who Arthur actually met at a party about a few months previously to the start of the book. So the four of them go on adventures throughout the book and the movie, and they differ a little bit. But basically, they're going to this old legendary planet that was the home of a business that used to make luxury, like customized planets for the ultra rich. But it's all empty now. And they're going there to find out some secret. And when they arrive, Arthur discovers that there's a sort of whole backstory about this race of pan-dimensional beings who created a computer to give them the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Basically, all philosophical ideas, they wanted the answer. So they created this insane computer to definitively give them an answer. And the answer that computer gave was 42, which made no sense to them. And the computer told them, well, it doesn't make sense because you don't actually know what the question is. You were too vague in your questions. You need to understand what the question is, and then you'll understand the answer. So they said, okay, can we make a computer that will figure out the question? And so the computer said, yes, we will. And that computer that they designed to find out what the question about life, the universe, and everything was Earth. So Earth was a planet that was made to run a computer program that would figure out this philosophical question, but was destroyed before it could complete its program that would result in the question. So the pan-dimensional beings want to get the question even though the planet was destroyed. And the pan-dimensional beings have manifested in our universe as mice. So there are these mice that want to get a hold of Arthur Dent so that they can use his brain, which was part of the computer program, to get the answer. But ultimately, thankfully, our heroes are able to escape. Arthur keeps his brain, and they head off to continue their adventures in the universe. And that, I think, is about the most succinct plot summary I can give for this story.
That was really well done, and I'm also glad I didn't have to do it.
It's a lot.
For a short book.
So Megan, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Founder's Porter beer, and its tagline is "Rich, Dark, and Sexy." And it's got like a pretty Victorian lady on the side, and it tastes really good. And I almost got this beer that's called UFO White Ale, but it was like not even 5%, and the one that I'm drinking now is like 6.8%, so I went with percentage over theme.
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
All right, I can respect that. I am drinking lemonade with Jim Beam honey in it, so it's like honey-infused bourbon.
Interesting.
That I've then added to lemonade.
I thought for sure you were going to say vodka.
No, lemonade and vodka would also be good, but my father bought this honey bourbon that I was interested in trying.
Yeah. Is it good?
It is pretty good. I haven't had a whole lot of it, but it tastes like lemonade with a little bit of honey. It doesn't taste very much like bourbon, which is good because you know me and you know I don't like whiskey very much.
I do know these things. Okay, so where do we want to start?
So actually, before we talk, I actually want to give a little bit of context to the story that I didn't know before researching it for this.
Cool.
Because I had previously watched and read this book. In fact, and the book is part of a series. There's 5 or there's 6 novels in the series. And I think I've read like the first 3 of them and I'd seen the movie before. But what I didn't know until very recently was that the story of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy actually originated as a radio drama on the BBC.
Oh.
Yeah, so Douglas Adams actually originally wrote this story for the radio, and then after that it was adapted into novels. There was actually a 6-part television adaptation of it in, I think, the 80s on the BBC. And then this movie didn't come out until 2005, which was actually after Douglas Adams had died. But he had written a screenplay for a movie adaptation because the rights were bought for it before he died, which was then, like, revised and then published after, and then, the movie was made after his death. So it's actually like, I don't know, it's interesting because I feel like we usually approach these things as like, okay, well, the book is what the author wrote, and that's sort of like the canon, and then the movie is like a deviation from that. Whereas in this case, it's like the original was actually a radio drama, but then he just kept making new incarnations of it in different media forms. Yeah. So it's like there isn't like one canon, And I think that's actually, I was reading something about him that he said that now I'm going to try and find on his Wikipedia page. Okay, I can't find it now, but basically there was a, there have been some like compilations of the series. So they had like all of the novels in, one book, that was like, the ultimate and complete Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I think he like said about this, like, I've retold the story so many times that every time I get something wrong. So, like, here's just, like, the definitive wrong version. Like,
that's really great. I like that.
So I just think that's interesting that it's, like, it's this whole media franchise that, like, we're just looking at sort of 2 incarnations of it that are, like, different interpretations of just this idea of a story that Douglas Adams had.
That's so cool. Stories are so cool, Jenna.
I know, Megan. So so you had never watched or seen this or read this, so how did you like it, Megan?
I went in completely blind. Like, I did not even look up a synopsis. I didn't want to know what it was about. Because, like, I had an idea in my head. The only thing I had was, like, it's probably a guy, and he's probably, like, a hitchhiker. He probably travels through the galaxy. That was, like, the only thing that I had. So, it was so weird. It's like, I've never read anything like this before. It was so out there, and it just felt like a fever dream the whole time. I was like, what is even happening? And it was so witty, and it was very British, and it was not what I expected. It was interesting, and I liked the book better than the movie, which is, on par with pretty much everything else in the world. It was interesting. I don't know if it's, like, really my thing, but I was impressed with the way it was told, for sure.
Yeah, well, I think, like, what this story does is, like, it takes these sort of sci-fi tropes and ideas, which are, like, super common. Like, I don't know, I just feel like the sort of aesthetic of this book and, like, how it, like, does sci-fi is, like, very, super common. Like, you can definitely make, like, comparisons to, like, the design of the Star Wars universe and and Star Trek probably too, just in sort of like the spaceships and the types of aliens and all of that, right? Mm-hmm. But it made it into explicitly a comedy, which I don't know has, which hasn't really, at least I haven't really had that experience of like this particular like idea of what sci-fi is, but then with this particular comedy.
Yeah, with this self-awareness to it. That just
exactly. Yeah. And I think that part of why I really enjoy this book so much is that I think Douglas Adams, at least in the way that it manifests in this story, has a very, like, similar sort of philosophy about the universe as I do.
Oh, interesting.
Because it's a book that's very, like, absurdist and sort of nihilist, but it's, like, very much, it's kind of like nothing is designed and everything is a coincidence, and like that's great. Like it's crazy and chaotic, but it's great. And that's so like in line with my personal beliefs.
I see that. Knowing you. And the conversations about the universe that we have had.
Right. And it's also just a very funny book.
No, yeah, it's hilarious.
But so do you want to talk about the movie and about some differences?
Sure. So, the biggest difference is, I guess, they just had to make the movie longer, because the plot of the book is not enough for a feature-length film, I don't think. So they had to add in things, and the biggest thing I think they added in was the kidnapping of, not kidnapping, the capture of Trillian, which is Trisha, what's her last name? Trisha
McMillan.
Trisha McMillan's space name. I don't know why she changed her name for space, but she did. So Trillian is her space name. And so they had her be captured by the Zophons? And
the Vogons.
Vogons. I'm sorry. I'm going to be doing that this whole time. I'm not good with that stuff. The Vogons. And I think that was like the biggest thing that and they also introduced like Zaphod's like political rival into the whole thing,
right,
to add some time. And I wasn't super impressed with either of those subplots. The one, like the capturing was a little bit better because you got to see like the bureaucratic hell that is
right, yeah,
the Zogon universe. But the political guy was underwhelming. He was creepy as fuck because he had no eyes and a million legs. It was creepy. But yeah, I was impressed with the movie in some aspects, but not the extra stuff. I think they should have just made a shorter film that's just the book.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I agree that like when they went to the Vogon homeworld and had to deal with that, and they were expecting this very like sort of action movie like rescue of Trillian, but it was really like, no, we just have to like wait in lines and fill out paperwork and like, so I liked that sort of twist. It was very funny. And well, so the thing about both this book and this movie, I mean, particularly with the book, you can tell that it's part of a series because it ends very abruptly.
Yes.
like just out of nowhere, pretty much. I mean, like, they sort of conclude the basic arc, and then it's, like, just over, and they're, like, on to the next thing. And the movie was sort of similar in that there were so many, like, loose ends at the end of the movie that they didn't really address, and it was just, like... So I feel like I still really enjoyed it, but it was kind of, like, in terms of creating a narrative arc, it was like pretty loose and like not super well thought out, which I mean, they, I think they probably made that ending of like, oh, well, let's go to the restaurant at the end of the universe because they were maybe like leaving an opening in case they ever got to make a sequel, right? Yeah. So like that makes sense, but there was still like so many unanswered questions by the end of it. And especially, because also the movie had the Vogons, who were the ones who destroyed the Earth, but then the movie kept them around as sort of the main villain for the whole film, whereas like in the book, they were pretty much gone once Ford and Arthur had escaped from them. So that was different. And then they also added a vice president in the movie who was like trying... I don't know if we've mentioned this before because it's important, but Zaphod, the president of the galaxy or universe or whatever, has stolen this ship. And it's like very much emphasized throughout both the book and the movie that like the president's job isn't to do anything, it's just to be a distraction from the people who really run the universe.
Which is so realistic and terrifying, and I hate that so much.
It's so, the like level of satire is incredible. But Zaphod is excellent at this because he's a very flashy person, he's a very dramatic, he's like very much into making a scene and stuff. So he's the president, and he steals this like ship that was just created with this groundbreaking technology. So they're like throughout the book, throughout the story, they're on the run from the authorities who want to get the ship back from him. So in the movie, they added a vice president who she was, part of the, effort to capture him, to get him back and get the ship back. But then it also seemed like there was maybe like a romance between them. And she kind of like turns at the very end because the Vogons are shooting at them and she's like, no, stop. And, then like goes off with them at the end. But I just wasn't sure about like their relationship or like what she was doing. Like they just kind of threw her in there and then didn't add any explanation for it.
Yeah, I hated it. Did not like it. She was like I think she was like not fawning over him, but she was like distracted from her job the whole time because he's like so hot or whatever. I'm just like, girl, come on. You're the vice president. You should take advantage of this and become the president. That was my opinion.
The presidency doesn't have any power anyway, though, so it doesn't really matter.
Yes. I didn't like it. I didn't like her. They ruined, I don't know how Zaphod. They ruined him. I liked him in the book.
His character was so much less nuanced in the movie.
He was like just an idiot. He was like a pretty boy, party man idiot, and I did not like it because in the book, it's so cool because it's like, okay, is he an idiot or is he a genius? Like, it's hard to tell.
Right. Well, and it like the book, it explains like this is why Trillian is like interested in him and like attracted to him because like she knows that he's not completely stupid. She knows that he like has some intelligence to him, but also because of that, it's like you never know how much of his sort of cluelessness is genuine versus how much is like him pretending to be stupid so that he can manipulate other people, which is like so interesting. And then in the movie it was like, no, he was just an asshole who was stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
and he had like no clear motivation. It was all over the place.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy that part of it. I really liked Ford in the movie though.
Yeah, that was very good.
Most deaf.
Yeah. So I feel like we should also talk about the romance plot, which was a huge part of the movie and really almost non-existent in the book. So first tell me how you felt about it.
Hated it. Mm-hmm. Also hated that. And you know me, I love romance. It's one of my favorites. I love watching people fall in love. But not when it's not about that. It's not about that. It's so unnecessary. That's not what the book is about. It's not about love. Don't force it. It's stupid. It was too much of the movie. I did not like it. How did you feel?
Yeah, I pretty much agree. Well, and I feel like, again, like this story is kind of about how like nothing really means anything and like it's all coincidence and it's all like, wild and insane and there's no true meaning in life, but it still highlighted the importance of like, so then what we do, we have to make it matter, Like, did you get that sense from it?
Yes, I did. I highlighted one thing. If we can go off on a little small tangent. It was after Ford and Arthur were picked up by the improbability ship thing. And it said, like, as if relationships between people were susceptible to the same laws that govern the relationship between atoms and molecules. Because, like, that, I feel like that encapsulates the whole thing. It's like atoms and molecules, like, there is, like, a random, like, way that they're put together, but then it's like it all works, and it's like there are patterns, and it's like people matter too, and it's, I don't know. I really like that, and I feel like, go on with your thing, because I think you're going to say what I'm just about to say, so. Okay,
yeah, no, that's an excellent, that quote's an excellent illustration of, how I feel the sort of meaning of the story was. And so I can see a way in which a love story could be, cohesive with that, where you could say, okay, so, characters falling in love, goes along with this, right? That, human connection, you have to make that matter, and that is what matters, even in this crazy universe where you can't control anything. But in the movie, it just felt like they sort of skipped over that middle part. It's everything is random, yes. And then so, humanity is what you make of it and everything, all that part was just skipped over. And they kept trying to, redirect that sort of idea to romantic love, and so it's it lost that sort of interesting subtlety and was just about these two characters that I didn't care about them falling in love.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing is, like, you could have written a story where these two people were, like, the last two people from Earth, and obviously, like, that's gonna have a connection between them. Like, you could have written a story that involved them falling in love that I'd enjoyed, but this just wasn't it.
No.
And I think it partially had to do with, like, the characters themselves and the way that their relationship was set up, like, the way that they met. Because in the book, it's like, they meet at a party, they sort of hit it off, and then Zaphod comes by and, like, whisks her away because he's more interesting, apparently. And then Arthur is sort of upset about that, but not really, because it was just a girl he met at a party and was having a conversation with. It wasn't like they, you know, had a relationship. And so then when they meet again in space, it's kind of like, oh, this is wild, but it's just like, there's so much more going on that he cannot, like, he's not, like, focused on the fact that, you know, they sort of, like, were flirting at a party one time. Like, there's so much more going on. Whereas in the movie, it's like, first of all, the way that they are talking that night at the party when they meet, and then she's just like, do you want to go to Madagascar?
Just so dumb. I just hate it.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb. Like, God, I don't know if this is them just trying to make her quirky, or if it's like the dreaded Manic Pixie Dream Girl shit.
That was exactly my thought. I was like, this was in that part of Zooey Deschanel's career where she was like just misfortunately always in these roles where she said these crazy things to be like cute and quirky and wild, and it was the worst.
Go to Madagascar. Like, how about not, you psychopath? Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. And like, but also when they're on the ship and Arthur's like, well, I guess you like just went with him because he has a spaceship. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, she went with him because he has a spaceship. Like, what does she owe you? Yeah, he's way more interesting. She got to go to space. Like, who are you? And what? Oh God, that made me so mad. I was like, this is so stupid. Oh my God. Not that he's a great guy, but
yeah, no, I definitely agree that like I didn't like Arthur as much in the movie as I did in the book. And it was partially just because of that beginning of where he's like, just the kind of like the start of when he's on the spaceship and he's like all mad that she's with Zaphod or whatever and not with him. And I'm like, get over yourself, man. Yeah. The rest of his portrayal I was fine with, but that portion was unfortunate.
It was such like a textbook nice guy move that was just like, can we not make Martin Freeman do this like right now? Thanks.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, it was bad.
What else about this? I thought it was kind of strange. So like the book has so many amazing one-liners, like just hilarious. Like with the two, like Thursdays, like this must be a Thursday. I never got the hang of Thursdays. Like that's hilarious. But I felt like they fell kind of flat in the movie. Like saying them out loud, which is funny that you bring up that it was originally like a radio program. So literally all of it was out loud. But I felt like they just kind of fell flat when they were in real life. Because like so much of this book is just hard to imagine in real life. Like part of the whole deal is that you can't imagine it. Like space is unimaginable. So it felt a little less genuine live action. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that. I didn't feel that way about all of it, but I do agree that like there's a certain amount of, you know, translating it from the written word to seeing it on screen. And I like the other thing though is I also think that you can hear things in an audio story that are okay within the confines of that format, but then when you can see the people saying them, do you know what I mean? 'Cause
yeah.
When you're listening to an audio story, it's like more has to be said out loud because you can't, you know, you don't have body language, you don't have the visuals of the characters, right? So there is more that like people normally wouldn't say face to face, but you can like believe it in an audio drama. But like once it's, you know, once you're seeing it in a video format, it does seem out of place.
Yeah, because you're like, they wouldn't say that out loud. Like, they're just sitting there.
Which I think, like, you know, one of the things that one of the parts of the movie that I loved was the, like, excerpts from the Hitchhiker's Guide, which, pretty much were drawn 100% from the book, and, like, which were just so well written and so funny and so, like, just weirdly, like, insightful and genuine, but in a very humorous way,
No, yeah, I loved all of that. The book, the movie, those were all golden.
Yeah, well, and then one that, how do you feel about this? The way, so, like, this didn't exist in the book because the love triangle didn't exist in the book, but in the movie they added, like, a Hitchhiker's Guide, excerpt, which was, like, the Hitchhiker's Guide entry on love is avoid at all costs.
Oh, man. It's hard. I think I liked it. I thought it was funny. I think it's probably true if you're looking at, like, just a purely logical standpoint. Like, yeah, no, that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. like, love does make you stupid. And it makes you do dumb things, but it's like just one of those things that you just can't help because it's so much fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
How did you feel about the point of view gun?
So
we have to give some background to this first.
Okay, right. So something that was added to the movie, and actually I read this, that the idea of the point of view gun was created by Douglas Adams, and he wrote it into the screenplay. So it's, like, not something that someone else added. It was, his IP. But so basically what it is this, like, gun that if you shoot it at someone, they immediately see things from your point of view. Not, like, visually, but mentally. So it's like, there's a part where they find it because they're on this, like, retrieval quest for it, for the creepy, eyeless John Malkovich character. And they get it, but then they're, like, shooting it at each other, so they, like, start understanding each other more. So I liked it as an object. Like, I thought that was cool and funny, that it's like, oh, we need to get this powerful gun, but then they find out that it's this point of view gun, which is still powerful from a certain, in certain circumstances. And it had the Hitchhiker's Guide, the description of it, which it talked about, it was created by this, like, group of, like, scientists and engineers who were very tired of their husbands just, ending arguments with, I just don't get it. So, like, so they wanted to use it on their husbands so that their husbands would understand their point of view. And that part, that entry of it, I was okay with. I thought that was, like, a pretty funny joke. But then at the end of the scene, so Trillian has shot Zaphod a bunch of times because Zaphod's an idiot and can't think about other people's emotions, and so she's like, look at things from my point of view, and, like, my planet just got destroyed and whatever. But then he takes it to, like, shoot it at her so that she can understand where he's coming from, and she goes, it wouldn't work on me, I'm a woman, and I hated it so much.
Okay, why did you hate it?
I don't know, it was just, like, and that's the thing, is, like, I almost can't describe it, and I was thinking about this, like, after watching that scene, that it's, like, the first half of the joke, where they made the joke about, like, husbands not understanding their wives, I enjoyed that. Like, I thought that was pretty good. But then when they took the joke farther, I didn't enjoy it, and it felt gross. And I almost can't, like, I can't quite describe, like, why that line was crossed, but it was, like, the first half of the joke felt like a, like, satire or, like, a subversion of a common sort of, like, sitcom-y trope, so it was funny, but then the last half was just, like, this sort of weird gender essentialism that I didn't like. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, that makes sense, because I've been trying to articulate how I feel about this, and it's, like, I'm so torn, because I understand where you're coming from, like, with the gender essentialism, like, okay, all women can't possibly have this magical power where they understand everyone's point of view. Like, that's stupid. But also, like, isn't there, like, some study, I could be making this up, but isn't there, like, some study that's, like, women have, like, more empathy than men?
It is, I don't know about a study about, that with women. I do know that there have been studies in which basically people of, like, oppressed minorities are capable of more empathy for people, like, outside of their, you know, minority group than others. Like, I know that's been true that, like, you know, in these test environments, like, people from poverty are capable of, like, or, like, tend to express more empathy for people with, like, in, you know, higher tax brackets than them, versus, you know, and not vice versa.
Oh, interesting. Well, I was under the impression, or I might still be under the impression, that women have more empathy than men, just because of, like, society and the way that women are taught to listen more than talk. But so I thought, so, like, see, there are two ways you could take this. You could take this as the gender essentialism, or you could take it as a comment on how women are taught more to listen than talk, and how, like, we are always forced to see other people's point of views, and, like, that kind, I like that commentary. So I just don't know which one they mean, and I don't know how to take it. And so, and, like, there was that part of me that was like, ew, gross, but then I thought about it more, and I was like, is it gross? And I can't decide.
I think that, like, no, I think you're right, that that's, like, a valid point that could have been made. I just think that something about, I don't know, that almost, like, that wasn't the right joke format to put it in, if that's the point they were trying to make. Do you know what I mean?
Right. No, I get it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Because I just don't know if it was a joke or not. Is my thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. Like, it was, like, the first half of the joke was clearly, like, a subversion and a satire, and, like, it was commentary, but in a way, in a format that made it a good joke. And for the second half, it's like, was that a joke or was it not? And, like, was that making fun of this idea or was it not? And, like, I don't know, it just didn't land as well, maybe.
Yeah. It's up to you, the watcher / listener. Oh, goodness. I think that's about all the gender theory that was in this media.
We will bring up gender theory in every single thing that we talk about.
How can we not, though, honestly? Just like I will always bring up queer theory, which I don't really have anything for this, except the part where Arthur fell on top of Ford in the very beginning of the movie. And I was like, well, then. And Arthur says, like, Arthur and Trillian are looking at Zaphod and Ford, and Arthur goes, I have a spaceman too. And I'm like, interesting.
Well, I would love for you to write some fan fiction about just a rewrite of this story, but where Arthur and Ford were involved.
See, that's
that would
so
be, I think,
much more interesting.
It would be
Trillian
a good rewrite.
And Arthur. Am I wrong?
Nah.
Thank you.
I loved Ford's character, though. Just, like, the whole concept was very... I think it, like, in both versions, in the book and the movie, like, was just very good and very well done.
Seriously, though, yeah. He's a gem.
Because that was an addition that the movie made, is, like, a flashback to the first time that Arthur and Ford met, where Ford is trying to, shake hands with the car. He's, like, in the middle of the road holding his hand out, and, you know, the car's just coming at him, so Arthur, like, tackles him and gets him out of the way, and then, like, in the present, Ford explains, like, I thought that cars are the dominant form of life here, and I was trying to introduce myself, and, like, that was, like, so funny and so on brand, and, like, I loved that addition.
That was wonderful.
Yeah. And also, like, and I don't think they brought this up in the movie, so, like, it might be a little bit confusing, but, like, I loved in the book how they pointed out that it's, like, Ford arrived on Earth and, you know, didn't totally know everything but got by, but, like, one of the mistakes he made was that he thought that Ford Prefect would be just a normal name.
I do love that.
Let's see, so we haven't really talked at all about Marvin.
Who is Marvin?
Marvin's the robot. Marvin is the depressed robot who's voiced by Alan Rickman.
Oh man, yeah, the depressed robot played by Alan Rickman. That's pretty great. I love the Alan Rickman part of all of that. That was really funny.
Yeah.
I don't know if Marvin made that much of an impression on me in either form of media. Besides the Alan Rickman.
I don't know. You know, thought overall, like, there's a good, funny character. Well, and just the idea that this robot-making corporation was like, we're going to improve our robots by giving them, like, the personalities of real people, and then, like, that backfired terribly.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
So, like, I liked that there, in the movie adaptation, there was sort of, like, a repurposing of the idea that, like, Marvin's, like, depressing other people is what saves the day.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Right, so, because in the book, at the end, they're trying to escape from the mice. We haven't even talked about the mice that much, which is fucking crazy. But, and they're cornered by these, police who are there to, like, get Zavod. And they just, like, the police suddenly, like, die, and it's because their spacesuits failed. And Ford is like, this is so bizarre, like, they should have, like, backups on their ship, which they're connected to, like, there should be almost no way for this to, like, just fail all at once, you know, in all of its, like, forms. And then they go back up to the surface, and Marvin says, like, oh, well, there was this ship, and I plugged myself into its, like, computer and tried to talk to it, and, it, like, disliked talking to me so much that it killed itself, and therefore killed the police that were chasing them, saving the day inadvertently. And then in the movie, what happens is that they're all being shot down by, like, a bunch of Vogons, and then Marvin picks up first of all, you think that Marvin has died because he got shot by one of the Vogons, but he's not dead, and he picks up the point of view gun and shoots it at all of the Vogons, and they're all just so sad and depressed that they lie down.
Yes. A very different way of saving the day, but essentially the same idea.
Right, but motivated by the same, right?
Yeah. Oh, Lord. Also, should we talk about the mice then?
So, okay, well, actually, before we talk about the mice, I want to say, I think that, like, the opening to this movie is maybe one of my favorite movie openings ever. It's so incredible.
I don't know about that. I was kind of like,
did that,
why?
Like, catch you off guard?
It got me very off guard. Like, I just wasn't sure why they had to sing about it. Okay, so the opening is like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy on, like, intelligent life forms on Earth, and humans are ranked number 3, and dolphins are ranked number 2. And their whole thing is, like, they've been trying to tell the humans for, like, the longest time the world is ending, but we keep misinterpreting it as, like, all the tricks that dolphins do. And so, like, but then they start, which is, like, pretty much verbatim from the book, but then the dolphins start singing this song about fish, and it's like,
Well, so I don't know if you remember this from the book, but it says that, like, the dolphins, like, final message to the humans before the world ended was they were trying to say, so long and thanks for all the fish. Yeah. But it was misinterpreted as, you know, a dolphin doing this, like, crazy trick, whatever. So, like, that's from the book. But then what the movie did was take that phrase, so long and thanks for all the fish, which actually that phrase is one of the titles of a later book in the series of novels. And made it so that, like, did this whole explanation with this, like, you know, footage of people watching dolphins doing tricks, but then turned it into, like, a Broadway song that was, like, where the refrain was, so long and thanks for all the fish. And they sing, like, it's not like, it's like you're still seeing just footage of dolphins regularly, but I guess the interpretation is that the dolphins are singing this song of, like, so long and thanks for all the fish. And then the final shot of this, like, beginning scene is just dolphins leaping out of the ocean and, like, into the sky as they escape from the earth before it's about to be destroyed. And I love it.
I don't know about that. Like, I love musical numbers, but it was, like, the only, like, I guess it fits with the not the theme, what am I thinking of? The, starts with an M.
Motif,
yeah, of the whole thing, where it's just really absurd and ridiculous. But, my question is, if dolphins could have left the entire time, why didn't they just leave, like, a long time ago? Like, we're not very nice to dolphins.
They like the fish, I don't know.
Mayhaps. But I think any world that has SeaWorld, they would just get the fuck out. Like,
Okay, but to be fair, SeaWorld, the only the only dolphins we were shown in the beginning were like bottlenose dolphins, and I only know about SeaWorld's like terrible practices in terms of taking care of orca whales. I don't know how they treat their bottlenose dolphins.
that's fair. That's really fair. I mean, the only documentary we have seen together
is Blackfish, which only talks about the
horrifying.
orcas.
Yeah. Anyway, away from animal abuse.
But anyway, so humans are the third most intelligent, dolphins are the second most intelligent, and then mice are the most intelligent because they are manifestations of this pan-galactic race of people who've created the computer that is Earth. And so it's like, there's this joke where the person from Magrathea, which makes the planets, says that, mice are the most intelligent, and, like, Arthur's like, oh, well, see, we run experiments on them. And he's like, well, no, really, they were running experiments on you. They were informing your thinking when, in fact, they were the most intelligent species.
That's so genius, though.
It's very clever. The whole thing is very clever.
Yes. Because it's like, yeah, if you were running experiments on mice to, like, try to figure out how your brain works, and they were telling you how your brain worked, like, that's
Exactly.
so good. Oh. And the part where Marvin is like, or Marvin, wow, that was not the right. And Arthur is like, he's like, that makes so much sense. Like, I always thought there was a, like, giant, like, this big sinister thing that, like, rules your entire life. And the guy from Magatheria or whatever is like, oh no, that's, like, completely normal paranoia. Like, everyone in the universe has that.
It's so good. It's just, like, lines like that and just that sort of philosophy. Like, that's why I love this story so much.
Maybe that's why I didn't enjoy it as much.
Because you want more direction in your life?
Yeah, I'm not nihilistic. I think things happen for a reason. I gotta think that or I'll lose my mind.
Well, okay, this was an addition in the movie, which was that the new Earth had been, like, rebuilt by the people on Magrathea. But then, like, the mice get killed, so I guess they're, like, not gonna use it as a computer anymore. But so they're just, like, gonna finish building the Earth. And, okay, the guy from Magrathea, whose name is, I believe, Slarta Bartfast, and is played by Bill Nye, says, like, well, we're just gonna finish the Earth, and, like, you, like, Arthur and Trillian, you can live here again if you want, since, like, this is, a copy of your home planet. And he's like, but, before we finish, like, is there anything you'd like to change about the Earth? And Arthur kind of looks around and goes, no. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
What would you change about the Earth?
Well, there are a lot of factors. Because I guess there's not a lot that I'd like to change about the Earth in general. Except that, you know what? No. Number one, I would get rid of spiders. But beyond that, like, because they're, like, just creating Earth from, like, the second that it was destroyed, right? So it's, like, it's not like they're starting Earth over. It's like they're creating it where it's, been around for however many millions of years it's been around, and, like, there's still people on it and everything, and it's like, there's a lot that I'd like to change just about, like, humankind.
That's fair. I'd like to make about the 10th amount of people. Get rid of 90% of the people. Too many people.
Well, on that note... That's literally like a joke from The Office. You realize that, right?
What, really?
Yeah, when they're going into a wedding, maybe Pam and Jim's wedding, and Dwight's, like, looking around and he says, there's too many people. We need a new plague.
Like, oh no, I didn't mean to be Dwight.
You've become Dwight,
Not
Megan.
a good look.
Congratulations.
It's not a good look.
We all have our Dwight moments.
I'd much rather be Jim.
Well, yeah, everyone wants to be Jim.
Yeah. I want to romance a pretty office lady. One day. Although office
You live in an
relationships
office,
are
you can live
not
that
a
out.
good idea. I work in an office, but it's not a good idea to have an office romance. Then you have to see that person every day. That'd be terrible. I mean, like, if you broke up, if you got married and lived happily ever after, that'd be great, but that doesn't happen every day.
Yeah, true.
True facts. I'll just have to date someone from the floor below me. I rarely go to the fourth floor.
There you go. Just someone in your office building, so it's like convenient, but you won't see them every day if you break up.
Perfect. Or I could just always move out. I think we're running out of steam here.
Yeah, let me see if I have anything else to say on the Hitchhiker's Guide.
I thought something that the movie did that the book did not do, that I thought they would, is the towel. I thought the towel would definitely come back into play in the book, and it didn't really. But it was a main thing in the movie.
Well, actually, it was sort of weird. Because in the book, they had sort of the excerpt from the Hitchhiker's Guide about how every hitchhiker should have a towel on them at all times, because towels are very useful for a variety of things.
Yeah.
And so then, like, to make sure that they have towels before they leave the Earth, but the towels never really come back into play. Whereas in the movie, they didn't have that original, like, entry. So you didn't really know why they had towels, but they had towels, and they did use them for a lot of things, which I liked. So I feel like there's a nice middle ground there. But I don't know, because there's more books, so maybe the towels become a bigger deal in later books. I don't know. I don't remember.
That's sure. Yeah, I did not know that there were more books, and then when it ended so abruptly, I was like, I guess there's more books, and then it was like, oh, okay, yeah.
Right, so the next book is called The Restaurant at the End of the Universe.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. Then the next one is Life, the Universe, and Everything, followed by So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, and then Mostly Harmless. And then there's a sixth book that Douglas Adams didn't write. It was published after his death, and the guy who wrote Artemis Fowl wrote it.
Oh. Huh.
But I don't know. I think I only read the first three, so I don't really know anything else. That's the extent of my knowledge.
You know everything, Jenna.
That's categorically false.
I feel like someone who uses the phrase "that's categorically false" should know everything in the world.
Yeah. That's like a Socrates quote, isn't it? That, like, you're, like, the smarter you become, the more you realize how little you know.
It's probably, that sounds smart. That sounds like Socrates.
Anyway,
classic Socrates.
What I'm saying is that nobody knows anything, least of all me.
Maybe. Or maybe you're holding out.
Yeah, I have all of the knowledge in the universe, but I'm just keeping it a secret because I want to live a nice, quiet life.
You don't want all that fame and fortune. You know the question of
yeah, I know what the question is, the answers. Had you ever heard that joke before of, like, 40, like, have you ever heard jokes that involve the number 42?
Yes. I knew when they were like, we have a computer that's going to tell us the answer to the universe. I was like, oh, this is where that 42 thing comes from.
Okay. So you got to learn the origin of that sort of joke.
Yes, I did. Which, there was another one. Oh, in the movie, that toast knife that's on Tumblr. I was like, oh, that's where the toast knife comes from.
Yeah, no, I've seen that other places too.
That was really funny. I always thought it was, I'd never had given a thought to where that actually came from. I was like, whoa, toast knife.
Yeah.
Which is a good idea, and I'm surprised it doesn't exist. It probably does, like in Sky
It's also
Mall.
Terribly dangerous,
Also terribly dangerous, but there are lots of things that are terribly dangerous that we let everyday people have, like AK-47s.
Well, on that political note, do you want to finish the episode?
Yes. Okay, we figured this out before. Now I can't remember. Okay, we want to thank Brie Mimva and Meredith Stein for our lovely logo. They're both very talented artists and great people.
Absolutely. And if you want to contact us, you can find us on Twitter. We're at A Bit Much Podcast. You can email us at abitmuchpodcast@gmail.com. And we also have a blog, abitmuchpodcast.blogspot.com.
You can use any of those platforms to contact us and let us know any movies/books you want us to read / watch / talk about.
Right. And for our next episode, we're going to be talking about Paper Towns by John Green.
Ooh.
So we're dipping back into that YA.
Yeah.
Cool. Very excited. And so thank you so much for everyone listening, and we'll talk to you next time. And I'm Jenna. We were like, we're going to plan out what we're going to say at the end, but we still didn't do it very well, clearly. Thank you for listening. My name is Jenna. She's Megan. You've been listening to A Bit Much. Goodbye. Read responsibly.
Oh, God.